Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to another episode of Quite Serious Impressions, where I play the first few hours of a game, then decide whether or not it's worth my time. And today we'll be talking about Wizard of Legend, a game developed and published by Contingent 99. The game was successfully funded on Kickstarter on the 22nd of July 2016 and was released on the 15th of May 2018. Unfortunately, I was unaware of this game when it was on Kickstarter. If I was, I would have definitely cried over being too poor to back it. From what was shown on the Kickstarter page, the game definitely looked like something I'd love. And now that the game is out, is it any good? Did it deliver on its Kickstarter promises? Is it strong enough to compete with giants of the genre such as The Binding of Isaac or Enter the Gungeon? To answer these questions and more, allow me to summarize my first impressions. The game is set in the Kingdom of Lanova, a magical realm ruled by the three members of the Council of Magic: the Frost Queen Freya, the Flame Empress Zeal, and the Earth Lord Atlas. Every year they host an event called the Chaos Trials, meant to find the Wizard of Legend. You play as an aspiring wizard visiting the Lanova Museum, where they showcase things related to the Chaos Trials. Everything seems fine till you get to the Insignia of Legend exhibit, where it reacts to you and transports you to this place. You're then introduced to Varus, a talking mirror who informs you that you've been chosen to participate in this year's Chaos Trials. He then introduces you to the other talking inanimate objects in this house that will help you with your task. There's Mimi, the talking chest that keeps all your relics, Ward, the talking wardrobe that keeps all your robes, and Tomi, the talking tome that keeps all your spells, which are in the form of these cards called Arcana. That's basically it. As far as the plot goes, it's serviceable but completely unremarkable, and if it wasn't for the awful dialogue, I would have left it at that. First off, I hate the talking furniture. They might seem charming at first, but the fact that they have to repeat the same piece of dialogue every time you want to get something from them just annoys me. I know this might seem like nitpicking, but when you're in a hurry to get back into the action or try out a new spell, it starts to get on your nerves. The second thing I hated about the dialogue is the puns, especially the puns said by the Council of Magic. It's like their entire dialogue was written by Mr. Freeze.
Cool party!
And look at this one. How is this supposed to be funny? It doesn't even make sense. I hate puns. Always have. As Ricky Gervais once said, pun should be short for punch him in the mouth. Speaking of unremarkable, I'm not a huge fan of the graphics. Don't get me wrong, the game is pretty. The animations are pretty good, the spells are visually interesting, and the game is very colorful. But I can't help but feel that it has no personality, especially compared to its peers. The Binding of Isaac has a comical art style mixed with grotesque imagery. Enter the Gungeon has adorable anthropomorphic bullets as enemies, and Crypto the Necrodancer has... Other than the cool looking spells, the visuals just look uninspired. The level design is pretty uninteresting and the enemies are extremely generic, so once again, much like the story, the graphics are serviceable. I know I'm being a bit harsh on the visuals. I mean, the game does look pretty good. I guess nowadays I'm expecting more from indie titles. I feel like it's not enough to just be good looking. If you want to stand out, you have to be visually interesting, and to me, this just doesn't look interesting enough. The music in this game is lovely, very JRPG-ish. It does get a bit grating later on though, since the number of tracks in this game is very limited, which means you'll hear the same ones over and over. So far it might seem like I didn't like this game. Far from it. The story might be bland and the visuals might be uninspired, but the gameplay is where this game shines. Wizard of Legend is a procedurally generated roguelike dungeon crawler with an emphasis on combat. Not counting the museum section, which acts as this game's tutorials, the game is divided into 3 sections: your accommodation, Lanova Square, and the Chaos Dungeons. You can change your arcana, relics, and robes in the accommodation, and you can buy new ones in Lanova Square. There are 3 types of dungeons: a fire dungeon, an ice dungeon, and an earth dungeon. Every run consists of 2 levels of each, with 1 mini-boss after each level, and 1 of the council members after every type of dungeon. The sequence of dungeons in every run is random, however I feel like it doesn't really matter. Other than the visuals and a few elemental enemies, the dungeons are almost entirely similar. I wonder why the devs only used 3 of the 4 elements and didn't add a wind dungeon. Seeing how the game uses all 4 elements when it comes to the Arcana, it just felt weird to me, like something was missing. They could have even added a 4th Council of Magic member that controls the wind. He'd also have awful dialogue filled with puns such as, "I see that you are here to blow me." Oh. Now I know why there isn't a wind dungeon. Before entering the dungeons, you can equip 4 Arcana and 1 Relic. Relic are basically items that provide a passive power-up. You will also find plenty of Relics and Arcana in the dungeons, either as drops or in treasure chests or sold at vendors. While you use Chaos Gems to buy stuff in Lanova Square, you instead use gold in the dungeons. Speaking of which, there are 7 NPCs that can be found in the dungeons. There's a Relic vendor and an Arcana vendor. They both sell you stuff for gold. There's also a tailor who enhances your current robe, an adventurer that buys your relics, a magician that replaces one of your Arcana, a dark wizard that gives you cursed relics, and... Once you're in the dungeon, you'll be able to equip 2 more Arcana plus 1 as a reserve, and you can equip as many relics as possible. However, whatever you find or buy in the dungeon is only temporary. You'll only be able to use it in that specific run. Same goes for any Arcana and relics you sell or exchange at the dungeons. Once the run is over, you get back whatever stuff you lost. I really enjoy this idea for 2 reasons. First, giving you a chance to try out new relics and Arcana for a relatively cheaper price is a good way to get you to buy them when you're in Lanova Square, sort of like a demo. And the fact that you get back your stuff after every run means you'd only be jeopardizing that specific run, making it a lot easier to take risks such as selling relics or exchanging Arcana. Second, because the items dropped or found at vendors are random, it makes every run unique. The game has this neat balance between allowing you to equip your starter items, then providing you random ones that force you to adapt and improvise to stay alive. The combat revolves around Arcana, which are divided into 3 categories. There's Basic, Dash, and Standard, which can also be used as a signature Arcana. Basic Arcana act like elemental melee attacks, while Dash ones help you cross chasms and dodge enemy attacks. Standard Arcana can be either ranged or area of effect attacks that rely on a cooldown system. When you equip a Standard Arcana in the signature slot, you unleash a stronger version of it once it's fully charged. You charge it by landing successful hits on enemies. There are a lot of Arcana in this game. I've been playing it for about 7 hours and I've barely scratched the surface. And they aren't just the same type of attack with a different element. Every Arcana is almost completely unique, even the basic melee ones. I love the combat. Unlike other dungeon crawlers where you progressively get stronger, in this game it's all about finding the perfect combination for you. The more you play, the more Arcana you get, which means more combinations you can experiment with. The combat is very fluid and combos are very intuitive, and the fact that most of your attacks are based on a cooldown system makes the game a lot more challenging and adds an extra level of strategy. And the Avatar influence is obvious. Wizards in this game are definitely inspired by the benders in the Avatar world, and I'm pretty sure Flame Empress Zeal was inspired by Princess Azula. As much as I love the combat, it has 2 flaws I couldn't ignore. First, the game has no lock-on system. The number of times I missed an enemy because I wasn't facing them 100%. I wouldn't consider this a big deal, but it does result in some frustrating moments. Second, the game has no invincibility frames when getting hit. If you get cornered or caught in a series of attacks by different enemies, you can't do anything about it but wait for an opening to dash away. It is especially annoying when facing these shadow-like creatures. Oh, and to PC gamers, I strongly urge you to play this game with a controller. Playing it with a mouse and keyboard was not fun at all. All your attacks aim towards your mouse cursor rather than the direction you're facing, which can be very disorienting. There are 2 types of boss fights: mini-bosses you fight after every level, and a main boss fight with a council member after every dungeon. The mini-bosses are nothing to write home about. They are basically a stronger version of a normal enemy with a few more moves. The fights with the council members, on the other hand, are awesome. Challenging yet fair and enjoyable. All their attacks are well telegraphed and they give you just the right amount of time to decide how you're going to dodge them. All bosses in this game have a cooldown time during which they are rendered vulnerable. That doesn't mean you can only hit them during that time though. You can still hit them anytime you want, but hitting them during their cooldown time stuns them, giving you a chance to land a lot of free hits. There's even this cool combo counter that counts how many hits you landed while the boss is stunned. I wonder why it's not present during the rest of the game. The game also has a co-op mode and a versus mode. Both modes are done very well and provide tons of fun when you're bored with a single player. Unfortunately, it only provides local multiplayer, which is a shame because I think playing this game online would be really fun. Overall, Wizard of Legend is very enjoyable. If you're tired of Enter the Gungeon and The Binding of Isaac, and you're in the mood for some dungeon crawling action, this game will keep you happy for a long time, especially if you have someone to play it with. The game is available for $15.99 on Steam, GOG, PS4, Nintendo Switch, and... What? I'm working! What? What do you mean the goats are hungry? They're surrounded by grass everywhere! Ugh, fine, I'm coming! Okay, bye.